Jiwoo's hands shook as she unfolded the faded blanket on the cracked pavement. The morning air on New Jeju carried the metallic smell of alien machinery and the distant hum of their patrol drones. She carefully arranged her watercolor paintings across the worn fabric, each one a window into a world most humans here had never seen. The medical district towered above her like a chrome and glass monument to alien greed. Sleek Vorthok healing centers gleamed in the artificial sunlight, their blue energy fields visible through transparent walls. Inside, wealthy alien citizens received treatments that could cure any disease in minutes. Outside, humans like Jiwoo scraped together credits for basic medicine that barely kept them alive. Her latest painting caught the morning, lighter, misty mountain peak surrounded by autumn maple trees in brilliant red and gold. She'd painted it from her grandmother's stories about Sierraxon, a place that existed now only in memories and dreams. The real Earth was gone, turned into an industrial wasteland by the Vorthok Empire decades ago. Beautiful work, said a voice behind her. Jiwoo turned to see Minho, a young maintenance worker who cleaned the alien medical facilities. His uniform was stained with chemical burns from the caustic cleaning solutions the aliens forced human workers to use without proper protection. Thank you, Jiwoo replied, trying to hide the exhaustion in her voice. The chemotherapy session, 3 days ago, had left her weak and nauseous. The alien doctors had injected her with a cocktail of drugs that felt like liquid fire in her veins, then charged her family's entire savings for the privilege. Minho crouched down to examine the painting more closely. My grandfather used to tell stories about places like this. Trees that changed colors with the seasons. Mountains that touched the clouds. Mine too, Jiwoo said softly. She said the air smelled like pine needles and rain. A shadow fell across them as a Vorthok patrol ship glided overhead, its repulsor engines creating a low thrumming sound that made the pavement vibrate. The ship was sleek and predatory, with sensor arrays that could track every human in the district. Jiwoo had learned to keep her head down when they passed. How much for this one? Minho asked, pointing to a smaller painting of a traditional Korean temple nestled in a bamboo grove. Jiwoo's heart sank. She could see the hope in his eyes, but she also noticed the patches on his uniform and the way his shoes were held together with tape. It's 300 credits. Minho's face fell. That was probably half his monthly salary, if he was lucky. Maybe next month, he said quietly. But they both knew next month would bring its own emergencies. As Minho walked away, felt the familiar weight of despair settling on her shoulders. The chemo treatments cost 5,000 credits each, and she needed at least 6 more sessions. At this rate, she'd be dead before she earned enough to live. A group of alien businessmen walked past, their iridescent skin gleaming in the sunlight. They wore expensive robes and spoke in their clicking language about profit margins and expansion plans. One of them glanced at Jiwoo's art stand and made a dismissive gesture, as if swatting away an insect. Human emotional expressions, one of them said in heavily accented standard, so primitive, so unnecessary. Jiwoo's jaw tightened, but she kept painting. She'd learned that showing anger only made things worse. The aliens controlled everything, the food, the air recyclers, the medicine. Humans existed at their mercy, grateful for whatever scraps they were thrown. The sun climbed higher, and Jiwoo's water bottle grew warm in the heat. She'd been sitting here for 4 hours and had sold exactly nothing. A few humans had stopped to look, their eyes lingering on her paintings of cherry blossoms and snow-capped peaks. Some even smiled sadly, remembering stories their own grandparents had told. But looking was free. Hope was free. Medicine was not. A young mother approached with her daughter, a girl of maybe 8 years old. The child's eyes went wide when she saw the painting of a traditional Korean house with a curved roof and wooden doors. "Mama, it looks like the house in your stories," the girl whispered. The mother's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, sweetheart. That's exactly what it looked like." Jiwoo watched them walk away, the mother's hand gently guiding her daughter past the alien security checkpoint. The little girl kept looking back at the paintings until they disappeared around the corner. This was why Jiwoo painted. Not just for the money, though she desperately needed it. She painted because someone had to remember. Someone had to keep the stories alive. Someone had to show these children what their ancestors had lost, what they were fighting to reclaim. The chemo had stolen her strength, but it couldn't steal her memory. Every brushstroke was an act of rebellion against the aliens who wanted humans to forget their past. Every painting was proof that Earth's beauty lived on, even in the hearts of those who had never seen it. As the day wore on, Jiwoo continued to paint, her hands steady despite her weakness. She was more than just a sick girl trying to raise money for medicine. She was a keeper of memories, a guardian of dreams, a bridge between the world that was lost and the world. The afternoon heat was making Jiwoo dizzy when she noticed him. Unlike the other humans who hurried past with their heads down, this old man walked with his shoulders straight and his eyes alert. He moved through the crowd like water flowing around rocks, smooth and purposeful. When he stopped at her art stand, Jiwoo felt something change in the air around them. His face told stories of hard years. 3 parallel scars ran from his left temple to his jaw, the kind that came from Vorthok energy claws. His hands were calloused and strong, but he touched her paintings with surprising gentleness. Most people glanced and moved on. This stranger studied each piece like he was reading a book written in a language only he understood. "You paint the old country well," he said, his voice like gravel grinding under boots. There was something in his tone that made Jiwoo look up sharply. Most humans spoke in whispers these days, afraid the alien surveillance drones might be listening. This man spoke like he didn't care who heard him. "Thank you, sir, I'm Jiwoo." She bowed slightly, the way her grandmother had taught her years ago. "Timon," he replied, never taking his eyes off her paintings. He picked up the canvas, showing Jeju Island's Halasan Mountain, its volcanic peak rising through morning clouds. "My father climbed this mountain when he was young. Before the first ships came." Jiwoo's breath caught. Nobody talked about the time before the invasion, not openly. The aliens had made it clear that dwelling on the past was considered counterproductive to colonial integration, but here was this stranger, speaking about old Earth like it was yesterday. "You remember?" she whispered. Tamon's smile was bitter. "I remember everything." Above them, a Vorthok surveillance drone buzzed closer, its red sensor eye focusing on their conversation. Most humans would have fallen silent immediately. Instead, Timon looked directly at the mechanical creature and spoke louder. "Beautiful artwork, young lady. The colors remind me of autumn on the homeworld." The drone hovered for a moment longer, then moved on. Jiwoo realized she'd been holding her breath. "You're not afraid of them." "Fear is a luxury I gave up long ago," Timon said. He set down the Halasan painting and picked up another, a scene of Seoul's ancient palaces before the bombing. "Tell me about your illness, child." The question was so direct, so kind, that Jiwoo found herself answering honestly. She told him about the cancer growing in her lungs, about the alien doctors who treated humans like broken machines, about the impossible costs that kept rising every month. "They charge us triple," she explained, her voice growing stronger with anger. "The same treatment that costs a Vorthok citizen 200 credits costs a human 600. They say our biology is primitive, that we're harder to treat." Tamon's knuckles went white as he gripped the painting's edge. For just a moment, Jiwoo saw something dangerous flash in his eyes, not the helpless rage of the oppressed, but the cold fury of someone who had the power to do something about it. "And your family?" he asked. "My parents work in the recycling plants, 80 hours a week for barely enough to cover food and shelter. My little brother Genesio is only 12, but he already talks about dropping out of school to work in the mines." A Vorthok transport ship rumbled overhead, casting them in shadow. The massive vessel was heading toward the spaceport, probably carrying luxury goods from the core worlds, while humans scraped by on synthetic protein and recycled water. Tae-min watched the ship pass, his expression unreadable. "How much do you need for all the treatments?" 30,000 credits, Jiwoo said quietly. "It might as well have been 30 million, but I'll never raise that much. Maybe I can get enough for a few more sessions. Buy myself some time." "Time for what?" The question hung in the air. Time to paint a few more pictures. Time to watch her brother grow up before she died. Time to hope for a miracle that would never come. "I don't know," she admitted. Tae-min studied her face for a long moment. Then he gestured to all her paintings spread across the blanket. "How much for all of them?" Jiwoo blinked in surprise. "Sir, that would be more than most people see in a year. Maybe 15,000 credits total." She expected him to laugh, to shake his head and walk away like everyone else. Instead, Taman reached into his jacket and pulled out a credit chip. But this wasn't the standard plastic card that most humans carried. This one was made of some kind of metal that seemed to shift colors in the light, and when he activated it, the holographic display showed numbers that made Jiwoo's heart stop. The balance read, "Over 2 million credits. This is impossible," she whispered. "Humans can't." "Where did you get this?" Taman's smile was grim and full of secrets. "Let's just say I've been saving up for a very long time." He transferred 35,000 credits to her account with a few quick gestures. Jiwoo's personal display lit up with more money than her family had seen in their entire lives. Enough for all her treatments, enough to get Genesia proper schooling, enough to move her parents out of the toxic recycling plants. But why? She asked, tears streaming down her face. You don't even know me. Timon carefully rolled up the Hallison painting and tucked it under his arm. I know enough. I know you're keeping something alive that they want dead. I know you're braver than you realize. And I know that 35,000 credits is a small price to pay for hope. As he walked away, Jiwoo called after him, wait, who are you really? Timon paused and looked back over his shoulder. For just a moment, she saw something in his eyes that made her shiver, not fear, but recognition, like looking at a legend that had stepped out of the stories. Someone who should have died a long time ago, he said quietly. Someone who's been waiting for the right moment to remind the galaxy that humans are far from finished. You're not just any colonist, are you? Jiwoo whispered as the credit transfer completed on her display. The numbers still seemed impossible, like a dream that might vanish if she blinked too hard. Taemin's weathered face grew serious. He glanced around the busy street, watching for surveillance drones and alien patrols. I'm someone who was supposed to be dead 20 years ago, he said quietly. The aliens think they broke humanity's spirit. They're wrong. Before Jiwoo could ask what he meant, Taemin gathered her paintings with surprising care. Pack up quickly. There's something you need to see. But my treatments, I need to get to the medical center. Trust me, Taemin said, his eyes holding depths she couldn't read. Where we're going, you won't need alien doctors. Jiwoo folded her blanket with shaking hands. The street around them looked the same as always, humans hurrying between jobs. Alien overseers barking orders, patrol ships humming overhead. But something felt different now. Like the air before a storm. Taemin led her through twisting alleys she'd never noticed before. They passed behind the recycling plants where her parents worked, the toxic fumes making her cough. But instead of heading toward the residential blocks, Taemin stopped at what looked like a maintenance hatch covered in warning signs in the alien script. This is crazy, Jiwoo said as he produced a strange key from his jacket. It wasn't like any human or alien technology she'd seen. The metal seemed to pulse with inner light. Crazy is letting them convince us we're beaten, Taemin replied. The hatch opened with a soft hiss, revealing a ladder descending into darkness. After you. The tunnel beneath New Jeju was nothing like Jiwoo expected. Instead of cramped maintenance shafts, she found herself in a wide corridor with smooth walls that glowed with soft bioluminescent panels. The air was clean and warm, carrying a sense of growing things she hadn't smelled in years. How is this possible? She breathed. The aliens scan everything. Their ground-penetrating sensors can't see through certain materials, Taemin said with a grin. Turns out the mining engineers who built these colonies were cleverer than the Vorthax gave them credit for. They walked for what felt like kilometers through branching tunnels. Gyu saw other passages leading away into darkness, marked with symbols that weren't in any alien language. Sometimes she heard distant sounds, machinery, voices, even what sounded like children laughing. Taemin, what is this place? Home, he said simply. The tunnel opened into a vast cavern that took Jiwoo's breath away. Hundreds of humans moved through what could only be called an underground city. Gardens grew under artificial sunlight, workshops hummed with activity, and children played in open spaces while their parents worked. The air buzzed with energy and purpose she hadn't felt on the surface in years. This is impossible, Jiwoo whispered. There are hundreds of people here, maybe thousands. How did the aliens not notice? 23,412 at last count, said a voice behind her. Jiwoo turned to see a young woman approaching, maybe a few years older than herself. She had the confident stride of someone who'd never learned to keep her head down around aliens. So-young, meet Jiwoo, Taemin said. The artist I told you about. So-young's eyes lit up as she saw the paintings Taemin carried. These are incredible. The way you captured Hallison, it's like looking through a window into the past. You know about Earth's mountains? Jiwoo asked. We know everything about Earth, So-young replied. We never stopped learning, never stopped remembering. That's the difference between us and the surface dwellers. She led them through the underground city, pointing out different sections. Jiwoo saw human doctors treating patients with equipment that looked far more advanced than anything in the alien medical centers. Engineers worked on sleek spacecraft in hidden hangars. Teachers led classes where children learned about human history, not the sanitized version the aliens allowed on the surface. We never surrendered, Taemin explained as they walked. When the Vorthax invaded, some humans fought and died. Others bent the knee and learned to survive. But a few of us, we disappeared. We went underground, literally and figuratively. They stopped at an observation deck overlooking the city's central plaza. Below them, Jiwoo saw a memorial wall covered with names and pictures, thousands of human faces looking back at her. The ones we lost in the war, So-young said softly. We honor them by refusing to forget who we are. But how do you survive down here? Food, power, supplies, ... double quotes. Taemin's smile was sharp. You'd be surprised how much equipment goes missing from alien facilities. How many supply convoys have accidents on remote routes? How many humans working in their factories and mines decide to take early retirement? A group of young people passed by, carrying what looked like propaganda posters. Jiwoo caught a glimpse of familiar imagery: mountains, forests, scenes of old Earth rendered in bright, defiant colors. Your art, Jiwoo, So-young said, watching her reaction. It reminds people what we're fighting for, not just survival, but the right to be human, the right to remember beauty. I just painted what my grandmother told me, Jiwoo said, feeling overwhelmed. And that's exactly what we need, Taemin replied. The aliens want us to forget. They want us to believe Earth was nothing special, that human culture is primitive and worthless. But your paintings, they prove them wrong. So-young pulled out a tablet and showed Jiwoo a map of the galaxy dotted with pulsing lights. These are resistance cells. Humans who refuse to give up, spread across dozens of worlds. They need hope, Jiwoo. They need to remember what they're fighting for. You want to use my paintings for propaganda. We want to use your paintings for truth, Taemin corrected. The aliens have their version of history. It's time humans had theirs. Jiwoo stared at the map, at the scattered lights representing human resistance across the stars. Each light represented people like her parents, like Genesio, like herself, ordinary humans, who deserved better than scraping by under alien rule. What about my treatments? She asked. So-young smiled. Dr. Kyung-ho is our best oncologist. He trained on Earth before the invasion, and he's been treating cancer patients down here for 15 years. No alien drugs, no extortionate fees. Just human medicine for human patients. This is all so much to take in, Jiwoo said, her head spinning. Se-min placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Take your time. But no, your art isn't just pretty pictures anymore, Jiwoo. It's ammunition in a war the aliens don't even know they're losing. As if summoned by his words, alarms began to sound throughout the underground city. Not panicked screams, but the organized response of people who had trained for this moment. What's happening? Jiwoo asked. So-young grinned, her eyes bright with anticipation. Phase 1 of the liberation begins tonight. And thanks to your paintings, every human on 47 worlds is about to remember exactly what they're fighting for. 3 weeks in the underground city changed everything for Jiwoo. Dr. Hyunsu's treatment center was nothing like the cold alien medical facilities above. Here, human doctors actually listened to their patients, explained procedures, and treated illness instead of managing it for profit. The alien drugs they gave you weren't designed to cure, Dr. Hyunsu explained as he reviewed Jiwoo scans. They were designed to keep you alive just long enough to drain your family's savings. Look at this. He pointed to her latest blood work. 3 weeks of proper human medicine, and your cancer markers have dropped by 60%. Jiwoo stared at the numbers on the screen. For months, the alien doctors had told her the cancer was aggressive, that she needed increasingly expensive treatments just to slow it down. Now she was getting better with medicine that cost a fraction of what her family had been paying. They kept me sick on purpose. It's standard practice, Dr. Hyunsu said grimly. Healthy humans don't generate revenue. The Vorthok medical corporations have turned suffering into a business model. While Jiwoo recovered, So-young's propaganda team worked day and night. They had converted one of the underground chambers into a digital workshop where dozens of humans operated equipment that looked far more advanced than anything on the surface. Holographic displays showed galactic communication networks, encrypted channels, and most importantly, the spread of Jiwoo's artwork across the stars. Watch this, So-young said, pulling up a real-time map of the galaxy. Tiny lights pulsed across dozens of worlds, each one representing a successful data transmission. Your painting of the cherry blossoms just reached the mining colonies in the Kepler system. The workers there haven't seen natural beauty in 15 years. Jiwoo watched in amazement as her simple watercolors became digital files. Holographic, projections, and even crude prints on whatever materials the resistance cells could find. On the industrial world of Proxima 7, humans painted her mountain scenes on factory walls. In the asteroid mining stations, workers carved her designs into metal with plasma torches. I never imagined, Jiwoo whispered, watching the data streams flow across the galaxy. This is just the beginning. said a voice behind her. Taman approached, carrying a tactical display showing troop movements and supply routes. Your art is giving people something the aliens tried to take away, pride in being human. He activated the holographic display, showing the underground city's true scope. Guo gasped as she saw the network of tunnels extending far beyond what she'd initially seen. The city wasn't just one location, it was a sprawling complex that stretched beneath the entire colony. 27 levels, Taman explained. Manufacturing, training facilities, living quarters, even small farms using hydroponic systems. We've been building this for 2 decades. But how did you stay hidden? Careful planning and a lot of help from humans working in alien facilities, Soyoung answered. Every construction worker who accidentally mislabeled a tunnel, every systems engineer who created false readings on their sensors, every maintenance crew that installed equipment while supposedly fixing their machinery. The scope was staggering. Jiwoo learned that similar underground networks existed on 47 different worlds, all connected by a communication system that piggybacked on alien military channels. The resistance had been growing for years, recruiting carefully, building strength while the aliens thought humans were broken and defeated. Your grandfather's stories about Hallison Mountain, Soyoung said, pointing to one of Jiwoo's landscapes displayed on the wall. It's now inspiring resistance fighters on 12 different planets. They're using it as a recognition symbol. When they see that painting, they know they've found other humans who refuse to give up. An alert chimed on Soyoung's workstation. She activated the communication system, and Jiwoo heard voices from across the galaxy, humans speaking in 12 different languages, but all carrying the same message of hope and defiance. Resistance Cell Gamma 7 reporting successful recruitment. The Earth Memories project is working. We've gained 30 new members this week. Mining Station Bata 12 here. The artwork is spreading faster than we can keep up. Even the children are drawing mountains and forests they've never seen. Agricultural Dome Phoenix 3. The overseers are getting nervous. They're seeing human pride they haven't seen in years. Taman smiled grimly as he listened to the reports. The aliens made a mistake when they let humans work in their critical systems. We have people in their power plants, their communication networks, their military installations. They think they rule the galaxy, but they're sitting on top of a sleeping giant. A new voice crackled through the speakers, this one tense with excitement. This is Reconnaissance Team Delta. We've identified 3 Vorthok military commanders who are asking questions about unusual human behavior patterns. They're starting to suspect something. Soyoung's fingers flew across her controls, bringing up detailed intelligence reports. It's happening faster than we expected. The aliens are noticing that humans are acting differently, standing straighter, working with more purpose, refusing to show fear. Is that bad? Jiwoo asked. It's perfect, Taman replied. It means Phase 2 can begin ahead of schedule. Over the following days, Giwoo watched her role evolve from patient to symbol. Her artwork appeared in resistance broadcasts, carved into hidden walls, and even tattooed on volunteers who wanted to carry the images with them. But more than that, she began creating new pieces specifically for the resistance, paintings that showed not just Earth's past beauty, but humanity's future possibilities. Her latest work showed humans walking freely under open skies, children learning in schools without alien oversight, and spaceships bearing human designs traveling between stars. These weren't memories of the past, but visions of what could be. You've given us something we didn't even know we were missing, Dr. Hyeon-soo said during one of Jiwoo's checkups. Not just hope, but imagination. The ability to picture a future where we're not just surviving, but thriving. As her health continued to improve, Giwoo spent more time in the city's training facilities, learning about the Resistance's true capabilities. She discovered that the underground humans had developed technology that rivaled or even surpassed alien equipment. Years of necessity had bred innovation. Tomorrow, you'll see the real scope of what we've built, Taman said as alarms began sounding throughout the complex. But these weren't emergency warnings, they were coordination signals. Phase 2? Jiwoo asked. Phase 2, Soyoung confirmed, her eyes bright with anticipation. Time to show the galaxy that humanity isn't just surviving underground. We're ready to reclaim the surface. The alarm that woke Jiwoo wasn't the usual gentle chime of the underground city. This was the sound of 20 years of planning finally coming to life. Throughout the tunnels, humans moved with practiced precision, carrying equipment and weapons that had been hidden for decades. The sleeping giant was about to wake up. It's time, Taman said, his weathered face calm despite the chaos around them. 47 worlds, all at the same moment. The aliens won't know what hit them. Gyu-woo followed him to the command center, where Soyoung stood before a massive holographic display showing the entire galaxy. Hundreds of lights pulsed in synchronized patterns, each one representing a resistance cell preparing to strike. All teams report ready, Soyoung announced. New Jeju Medical District, check. Mining stations in the Kepler system, check. Agricultural domes on Proxima 7, check. The list went on and on. A roll call of human defiance spanning the stars. At exactly 0600 Galactic Standard Time, the liberation began. On the surface above them, Vorthak patrol ships suddenly found their engines failing as human technicians, who had been maintaining alien equipment for years, finally revealed their true loyalties. The ships crashed into empty fields, their crews too stunned to mount effective resistance. Through the underground city's communication network, Gyu heard reports flooding in from across the galaxy. On the mining world of Titan 6, human workers had seized control of the orbital platforms, using the aliens' own defense systems against them. In the agricultural colonies, crops that had been genetically modified to depend on alien chemicals suddenly began growing wild and free, as human scientists revealed they had been secretly developing Earth-based alternatives. Medical District secured, came a voice through the speakers. Dr. Hyansu was leading a team of human doctors and nurses through the alien healing centers, offering free treatment to anyone who needed it. The same facilities that had charged Jiwoo's family impossible amounts for ineffective medicine were now open to all humans at no cost. They're retreating from Sector 7, another voice reported. The Vorthok garrison is requesting reinforcements. Timon smiled grimly. Reinforcements that won't be coming. Every major alien base in this sector of the galaxy is facing the same situation right now. Through the tactical displays, Giwu watched the battle unfold above ground. But this wasn't the chaotic violence she had expected. The humans moved with discipline and purpose, targeting military installations and government buildings while carefully avoiding civilian areas. They had learned from 20 years of oppression exactly which systems to hit to bring down alien control. Look, Soyoung said, pointing to her main screen. Your paintings, across the galaxy. Resistance fighters were raising banners bearing Jiwoo's artwork. The mountain scenes she had painted from her grandmother's stories were now flying over liberated human settlements. Her cherry blossoms bloomed on flags and space stations. Her volcanic landscapes appeared on the hulls of human ships as they emerged from hidden bases to reclaim the shipping lanes. I never thought, Jiwoo whispered, watching her simple watercolors become symbols of galactic revolution. When I was sitting on that street corner, I just wanted enough money for medicine. That's what made you perfect, Taemin replied. You weren't trying to be a symbol. You were just trying to survive, to remember, to keep something beautiful alive in an ugly world. That's the most human thing of all. The breakthrough came when human cyber specialists who had been working in alien communication centers for years suddenly turned their access against their former masters. Within hours, every alien military network in the sector was compromised. Orders couldn't get through, reinforcements couldn't be coordinated, and worst of all for the aliens, the truth about human capabilities was spreading faster than they could contain it. New Jeju Orbital Command is requesting evacuation, Soyoung reported with satisfaction. Their entire fleet is pulling back to the core worlds. Through the observation ports of the underground city, Jiwoo could see alien ships lifting off. From the surface, their blue engines cutting through the atmosphere as they fled. But they weren't running from human weapons or superior technology. They were running from something far more dangerous, the realization that they had never truly conquered humanity at all. How, Jiwoo asked. How did we hide all of this for so long by letting them think they had one, Timon explained. Every human who bowed their head in submission, every worker who took orders without complaint, every family that scraped by on their scraps, we were all part of the same plan. They saw what they wanted to see, a broken species that had accepted defeat. The truth was more complex and more beautiful than Jiwoo had ever imagined. The resistance hadn't been a small group of fighters hiding in tunnels. It had been millions of ordinary humans, living their daily lives while secretly preparing for this moment. Her own parents, working in the recycling plants, had been part of it. Her little brother, Genesio's teachers, had been part of it. Even some of the human workers in the alien medical centers had been gathering intelligence while they cleaned floors and emptied waste containers. Every credit they made us pay for overpriced medicine, Dr. Hyansu said as he joined them in the command center. Every hour of overtime they demanded, every insult they threw at us, we remembered it all, and we made sure they would pay for every bit of it. As the sun set on New Jeju's first day of freedom, Giwoo stood beside Timon, On the surface, for the first time in weeks, the alien patrol ships were gone. The surveillance drones had been disabled. For the first time in her life, she could walk under the open sky without fear. Around them, humans emerged from buildings and underground shelters, many seeing their neighbors' true faces for the first time. Children who had been taught to whisper were laughing loudly. Adults who had learned to keep their heads down were standing tall. "Your art," Taman said, pointing to a massive projection on the side of a building. Jiwoo's painting of Hallison Mountain glowed against the evening sky, visible from kilometers away. "It's flying over every liberated world right now." As they watched, more human ships appeared in orbit, not sleek alien designs but sturdy, practical vessels built in hidden factories across the galaxy. They bore Jiwoo's paintings as their insignia, mountains and forests and cherry blossoms that represented not just Earth's past, but humanity's future among the stars. The young artist who had once sat alone on a street corner, desperately trying to raise money for medicine, now saw her work displayed in the capitals of free human worlds across the galaxy. Her simple act of painting what she remembered had become the spark that ignited a revolution spanning the stars. That is, the first free dawn in 20 years broke over New Jeju. Gru realized that her grandmother's stories had come true after all. The mountains and forests might be gone from Earth, but they lived on in the hearts of humans everywhere. And now, finally, they were free to build new worlds where such beauty could grow again. The end.